Oh, yeah? Careful like you wish you had. Are we sitting there with forks and... You heard what she said, reviews roll downhill.
It is 6:30, and I would like to call this council meeting to order. Before we get started, I would Councilman Smith, if you wouldn't mind giving the invocation.
I would be honored. Before we do that, can everyone, as some of you might have heard, we lost a deputy today. I don't know if some of you have heard that accident that took place this morning, and Deputy Corlew, am I saying that right, Captain Rails? So, in honor of him, would you mind please standing and having a moment of silence as we honor the tragic loss of him? Thank you for that. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for once again an evening in Canyon Lake, Lord. So much to be grateful for, but also so much that we need you, Lord. We ask that you please be with the family of Deputy Corlew, Lord. Be with his family as they're going through this tough time, Lord, as such a tragic incident, Lord. Please be with all the firefighters right now as they're fighting the fires and the winds that were occurring, Lord. And I ask that you please also be with the families out in New Orleans as well, Lord. There's so much going on. This is such a busy time, but it's important that we turn to you and ask for help and guidance. In your name, amen.
You seated?
No flag salute.
No. Oh, okay. Well, we're good. Give me a minute. It's been a heck of a start of 2025. January 1st in New Orleans, where a coward, he is a coward, drove a truck down Bourbon Street and changed the lives of families and generations forever. And I think it's a good habit that we do not remember the coward. Rather, we remember the images of law enforcement sprinting to the threat and eventually killing the threat. They did so selflessly, and they did so without hesitation. And then you fast forward to last night. And I'm going to use a phrase, this is not mine. I heard it at a press conference today, but it is very, very fitting. They came to darkness, surrounded by fire and 80-mile-per-hour winds. And seeing firefighters, law enforcement, without hesitation once again, they saved hundreds, one might even argue thousands of lives last night. Mayor Pro Tem Castillo has said this on numerous occasions. Canyon Lake embraces, we love our first responders. Therefore, I believe it is fitting if we invite Chief Latendresse and Captain Rails to lead us tonight in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. City Clerk, you want to conduct a roll call?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Castillo.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Stieber.
Here.
Councilmember Welty.
Here.
Mayor Terry.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
City Attorney, do we have anything to report on closed session?
We do not have anything to report today, Mayor.
Okay. I would like to invite my good friend Monica Lyons, if you could please come forward. Brought quite the crowd with you.
It takes the village.
Once you leave, we're going to be all here alone. Howard. Tonight, we are honoring as our Citizen of the Month, Monica Lyons. Monica Lyons of Yard Fresh, a pet waste management company, or you pick up your poop. But for the second year in a row, Monica organized a blanket drive through November to support Animal Friends of the Valley. And thanks to the donation bins that were placed at our local businesses and partners, the city of, and also a partnership with the City of Canyon Lake Turkey Drive, the community came together in an overwhelmingly show of support. The results were outstanding, 131 bags of blankets. How many blankets did you get?
5 to 8.
Did you ever do a final count?
Not of the blankets themselves, but overall there were 160 bags of items donated, whether it was food, cat litter, blankets, toys. There was some medications, vitamins. There were pee pads. It
was a lot of stuff.
It was a lot, yeah.
Not to mention, she also assisted in the turkey drive. Well, we had how many turkeys again?
30.
130? 130 turkeys, and I know that you at least picked up and carried in at least 50 of them. So it was a great day. Hey, it is your commitment to our city, because this isn't the only thing you assist us with. You involve yourself in so much, and nobody is more fitting than you to be our Citizen of the Month. Monica Lyons. Here you go. You can put that with a blanket, and why don't we get everyone up here to take a picture. Don't go anywhere. Beth, Mo, would you mind coming up? More accolades. Hi.
Hello there.
Good to see you again.
It's really good to see you, Mayor.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you again.
Yes.
Who wants to begin? You, Beth?
Sure.
There you go.
Here, we'll go on this side of
Connor.
Monica.
How are you?
Good evening, everyone, Mayor, and all kinds of people. My name is Beth Soltesiak, and I'm the Director of Development for Animal Friends of the Valleys. And I just want to say thank you to Monica, Troy, and the whole family. You have been our great supporter throughout the years, for many years since you've been here. So we really appreciate it. And this year, they weren't just regular bags. We're talking 150 black bags, so it was so much. But we love you, we love your support, and I'm going to let Mo talk to you.
We have a little certificate for you also. What we'll say basically is, Mayor, this was above and beyond. I don't think we've ever had a single person. Now, we've had some groups come in, and they still haven't matched 160 bags, okay? But we had some groups come in. This was unbelievable. And it really makes a difference down there. And what people, every animal gets a blanket, every animal gets a bed, every animal gets a dry towel when they're getting bathed. And we go through this stuff so fast because, the animals will destroy them, they'll tear them up. We go through this so fast that sometimes, and Monica, you've been there and you've seen our shelves empty. You know what I mean? And then that's when, I'm thinking, I don't need as many towels at home anymore, and we'll bring in our towels and stuff. But we have enough to last us a couple days right now. just a couple days. So again, I can tell you that I look at it a little bit more. I mean, she's almost like she is an employee and you live there now. So she comes in, she actually tells us what to do, which is great, okay, and how we can fix it.
I would never do that.
No, you guys know she does. But I can tell you, I look at you as a friend of AFE, and I couldn't think of a better person. And thank you so much for what you do for those animals there. Absolutely.
Congratulations. Great job. I would now like to bring up our Mayor Pro Tem, Casey Castillo.
Good evening. I have the honor of presenting a certificate of recognition to Susie Bowman. Susie! Come on up.
Bring my Marine.
Good. Good. Hi. I'm Casey.
Calvin Lucas.
Nice to meet you. So today we celebrate an extraordinary act of kindness and community spirit. Susie Bowman opened her home this Thanksgiving to host 30 Marines from Camp Pendleton. Giving them holiday experience they won't soon forget. For these service members stationed far from their own families, Susie created a sense of connection and belonging. As the mother of a Marine currently stationed in Florida and unable to be home for the holiday, Susie understood the sacrifices our troops make. Her catered Thanksgiving feast, complete with turkey and all the traditional fixings, was a heartfelt gesture of gratitude and support. Susie's generosity embodies the spirit of Canyon Lake and is a shining example of how one person's efforts can make a profound difference. Susie, thank you for reminding us of the power of community and the importance of serving those who serve our nation. I see you crying because it is awesome, right? So we are so proud of you. And we love this about our Canyon Lake residents who just give and give and give. So in recognition of your generosity and support for our troops, we give you this certificate of recognition as we extend our heartfelt gratitude for hosting the Marines in your home, bringing them to Canyon Lake to show them how amazing Canyon Lake is, and just opening your heart. You're a great, great resident. We love you. So congratulations.
Thank you. And they are ready for a July 4th. Let's get.
Bring those Marines to Canyon Lake for the 4th of July. Absolutely.
I wore actually shoes to be taller, but these are a U.S. Marine. I didn't know the sacrifice when you say thank you for your service until my son joined 3 years ago. I now understand that a lot more, the sacrifice. Calvin is an extended part of our family, and my daughter asked, could 8 or 9 come up, Mom? And I said, sure. Our house is about 1,100 square foot in Canyon Lake. And then I was at school teaching, and my kids were at lunch, and my phone rang. It was my daughter. And first words out of my 19-year-old daughter was, don't freak out, Mom. And all of you know that means freak out. And she said, it's 30. And I didn't even know what she meant. I said, what do you mean 30? And then she said, 30 Marines. So we changed. But anyways, but these are U.S. Marines, but from a Marine parent or a military parent. When we saw them all together in Thanksgiving, it's a bunch of 19-year-old kids who are home calling their parents in all their states. I mean, I know they're U.S. Marines, and I honor that. But when you see them gathered like that, off of base, out of the barracks, it was just a bunch of great, great kids. And we are ready for July 4th. So we can start planning something maybe for July 4th.
Probably more.
Probably more. We might need some with a larger yard. We need boats, golf carts, and a larger yard. So thank you. Thank you.
Our city manager is tearing up over there because he's a Marine.
Oh, you're a former Marine?
No such thing as a former Marine.
Can we come up for a photo?
It's once a Marine, always a Marine. That's right. But I can't imagine feeding 30 of us. That's 60 turkeys. I mean, we're 2 turkeys. Yeah, right.
We'll take a picture.
How awesome is all of that? Okay, community reports. First, from Elsinore Valley Municipal Water District, Director Darcy Burke.
Thank you, Mayor. I always hate going after Citizen of the Month because they always have great things and I always have bad news. I want to talk a little bit about the fires for just a minute because you're going to hear about there's no water to put the fire out. You're ready to go in there, but you need something to put the fire out, and usually that's water. Our state has embraced a net zero target, which means no combustible engines, which means some cities like Los Angeles have gone above and beyond and replaced their generators with solar-powered generators. When you have smoke, you cannot recharge your generator. If you do not have power, you cannot pump water. So yes, the reservoirs ran out because the firefighters needed the water to put the fire out. They could not refill because they had no power to do so. Let me also point out that with the mandates coming for utility trucks to be all electric, there will be no utility workers to be able to respond to do that either. Because unlike first responders, technically as fire and police, utility workers are not considered that. So when the fire needs water, the water operators will not be able to respond. They'll be sitting there watching their trucks burn right there along with everything else because the power will be out. So it's just a reminder of some of the things that we're forced to do and we're forced to pay for that make absolutely no sense. And this is a great example. I was at Metropolitan last month and watched this argument go on, and a director saying, well, what happens in a really bad fire? And a Los Angeles director saying, but we have solar. And I didn't want to text that director to say, how's your solar working today? Because it was not the time. But it needs to come back around because houses burned, people got hurt, and people died because there was not enough tools or resources to fight what we need to. There's just got to be some type of balance. My farmers like to say, you can't fix stupid with duct tape, and duct tape fixes everything. So we just have to do better. It's 2025, and we're going to kick off our budget process, which I'm going to guess staff is going to propose at some point a rate increase. We were able to put down a capacity fee proposal of 48%. That's going to come back somehow. We're going to have to find other ways to pay for that. Part of that is we are engaging with a gentleman from Washington, D.C. that was able to generate non-rate revenue from other sources. He runs an organization called Moonshot Mission. He ran DC Water for a number of years to find ways within our very limited regulatory structure to generate money that doesn't come directly out of our ratepayer or our customers' wallets. And that could actually be visitors. That could be taking a lot of our assets and making them go to work for us. So I'm very curious to see how we can do that. You know, it's a ship. We don't turn a ship on a dime. So I'm encouraging people to be patient. I was asked last night at the POA meeting how much rain we were going to get. I don't know. But I can tell you that we did a Farmer's Almanac test at Elsinore Valley last month. There is a saying that if you cut a persimmon in half in your region, you will see the middle of the persimmon. It's either a spoon, a knife, or a fork. If it's a spoon, you're going to have a very wet winter. Last year we had a spoon. If it's a fork, it's average. If it's a knife, it's going to be cutting cold and dry. We cut two, we had two knives. And so far we've had no rain. So I think the Farmer's Almanac is so far batting 1,000, which means the lake will be lower. That means people that were complaining last year that they could not repair their seawall, now's your opportunity. I won't probably get a phone call on Easter Sunday asking me to lower the lake so people can go through the tunnel. It'll probably be just the opposite, to add water. We don't operate a reservoir like that. However, you know, we have an agreement with the Property Owners Association. If it gets to a certain level, when we purchase water from Metropolitan, and we will do what we need to do. But it's a reservoir, and that's how it's operated. And unfortunately, I'm not in charge of weather yet. So when I can be, I can then tell you how much rain we're going to get and when it's going to come, and I can schedule it appropriately. right? So it's convenient for all of us, not for holiday weekends or when you have to drive. So there's a lot of things coming. We also have a new kind of like a water class coming out for elected officials. It's a series that'll coming out. You'll all be invited. That goes in addition to our new training that we have for newly electeds. People don't appreciate water until they don't have it, especially if you're trying to flush your toilet. That tends to be when we're mostly appreciated. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions, council?
Thank you.
Thank you. There they go. Got boring quick, didn't it? Are they board members or directors? Now, on behalf of the Canyon Lake Property Owners Association Vice President, Greg Doherty.
And the butterflies are gone now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy. I just got back from Antarctica on Saturday, so I can still say that to everybody I haven't seen. I have not been in these chambers before, and I certainly commend you guys for this beautiful surroundings. It's going to serve you well for a long time. Very well done. So what's happening at the POA? We just had our board meeting, executive and open session last night, so I'm here with fresh news to some degree. First of all, we are sending out our first member survey in 8 years. Times have changed, a lot's changed, and we're seeking feedback from the members about various topics. The survey's been constructed, obviously, and will go out by both mail and email, which it probably didn't 8 years ago. And we encourage, obviously, everybody to give us their feedback about their thoughts about where this community, where they want it to go. The budget process is in full swing. Our board, our finance committee, and our department managers are crunching numbers like there's no tomorrow for implementation of our budget on our fiscal year May 1st coming up. And in conjunction with that, every year we have a workshop, a budget workshop, where the community is invited to come and give their feedback and ask questions, which usually there's questions. The workshop is scheduled for the 18th of February at 6 p.m. at the Lodge. Many of you probably have heard, we're moving for the elections of board directors to an electronic voting system. We're going into the 21st century. This is possible because the California legislature enabled this type of process last year to be put into effect for POAs and HOAs all across California. And last night at the board meeting, we approved amendments to our voting rules to back this up. We will be voting in May on the board elections. We will be using this electronic voting, which means you can vote from home on your computer. Now, very importantly, there will be a provision where members can opt out of this electronic voting if they're not comfortable with it or whatever, for whatever reason, and just stick with what we've been doing for years, which of course is the paper ballots. So that's an important provision that will be rolling out, and you can if you choose to opt out, you can do that in the next few weeks as we roll this electronic voting out. And once again, at the February 4th open session coming up, we will have our HOA elections inspector, who we hire, as you know, to do these elections for us, to manage them and run them. He will be there to answer questions that anyone may have about this new electronic voting system. We want it to be a really seamless transition. Two things we anticipate from this electronic voting approach. One is the costs were probably going to be about a wash from the old system to the new system. We anticipate the probability that costs will go down in the future, but we can't guarantee those. But, you know, most things that go high tech, usually the cost ends up drifting down after a while. The other thing we anticipate and hope for is a higher voter participation. In Canyon Lake, our participation's historically kind of low, but we hope that if the ease of people being able to vote from home on their computer will increase participation, which is a good thing. We have hired a new gate entry company. The old one, let's just say, could have done better, but didn't. We hired a new one, checked their references, and that rollout is going to begin very soon.
To replace dwelling, correct?
Exactly correct. Their name, if you want to hear that, is Go Access. It's obviously, no surprise, going to be application-based. I've already downloaded it to my phone and tablet, but the rollout's going to begin in about another week or two, and you'll get lots of information about that. I was very honored to, last night, be able to present the Member of the Month award to Mr. Brian Wood. Brian is like the Uber volunteer in this community. He lived in Colorado for years, and he and his wife Kathy identified Canyon Lake as a place they wanted to retire. Brian holds 2 board positions on the Canyon Lake Guild, not 1 but 2. He's the chairman of the Appeals Committee, a very important committee in our POA structure, and is a member of the Yacht Club and the Car Club. So he's a very busy guy. Lastly, last night, the board approved 2 28-day readings having to do with alcohol. And I'm just going to read them to you because I don't want to make any mistakes. They're pretty important. The first proposed rule revision is as follows. No open alcohol containers are allowed in vehicles. And that includes golf carts and so forth, not just automobiles. Additionally, no person under 21 may possess any alcoholic beverage, whether open or unopened, in a motorized vehicle. That's number 1. The second is use and/or operation of any vehicle, vessel, e-bike, etc., under the influence of an alcoholic beverage, controlled substance, or intoxicating substance is strictly prohibited. Any person to be intoxicated, and this next phrase is important, as determined by law enforcement, while operating any vehicle on PLA's common areas will be in violation. Commensurate fines for violations of these proposed rules were created as well. So,
$1,000, right?
yes,
For each?
yeah, right. Thank you. So that's about it. Again, Happy New Year to everybody here. Do you have any questions? Can I help you?
How was Antarctica?
Awesome. I think the person that invented the word awesome has been there.
I saw the pictures.
I would say it was.
Pretty incredible.
It's pretty incredible.
Any questions, council? Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, public safety updates. We will begin with the City of Canyon Lake Code Enforcement. Ruby?
Good evening, council members and staff. I'll be reporting for the month of December. We had 2 MPDS violations. They weren't huge violations. They were immediately rectified. Down on BLM, we had 6 unauthorized motorized vehicles, 6 verbal warnings were issued. We did come across a hunter. We did speak with him, educated him, and he just went off and exited, knows where to go hunting, not on BLM.
What kind of hunting?
Duck.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
And then down to our residential rental registrations, we have a total of 372 registered properties. 355 have renewed, 17 are still pending renewal. 3 new unregistered properties were found. All 3 have been registered, are currently in the process. 8 inspections were conducted in person. 13 self-certifications were completed. And then down to our business license, we have 2 new commercial business registrations, 2 new home occupations, 10 new out of city. And out of the 850 renewals that were mailed out back in November, we have now 479 that have completed renewals. And that is all I have for you guys today.
Are the renewals, when you say 850, is that just what we had on file last year?
The 800 is what went out with our current active businesses that we have.
So we had 850 active business
Correct.
license.
Correct.
Any questions? Thank you. Riverside County Sheriff's Department, Captain Rails.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council member, staff, citizens of Canyon Lake. I have your stats and your public safety report for the fourth quarter, the months of October, November, and December. First, look at calls for service. In October, we had 388 calls for service. If you look at the times of most of those calls, most of the calls come between 6 in the morning and midnight, with the bulk being between 6 at night to midnight in October. In November, we had 345 calls. And also, if you look underneath that in the gray, that's related to calls for service from last year, so we're up just slightly each month. So we had 345 in November from 323 the prior year. The bulk of those calls also coming between noon to midnight. December, we had 432 calls. Bulk of those calls come in between 6 and midnight. Most of that's because of New Year's Eve.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yes.
So that includes the self-initiated activity by the deputy, right?
Yes.
Okay, so does that mean that the deputy is more active from 6 a.m. to midnight also?
No, I wouldn't say they're more active. They're active all day long, but we had more calls for service during the evening hours, mainly because of fireworks and parties and that type of thing.
Okay.
And then the next slide, you're going to like this. I broke it out. I know we've always said that our CAD system does not break out the calls related to, as far as if they're dispatch calls, reference self-generated. So what I did is I created a spreadsheet, and I actually sat down, because you have to hand sort these and I have to look up every call. So I went and did 3 months worth just to kind of see where we're at. I know we always say we're right around 50%. And this kind of shows we were actually at 46%, but I went through each call. Didn't break it out into times, but if you look in October, out of 388 calls, 189 of those calls were dispatched, and 199 were self-generated. Average calls per day is 12.5 on that overall, not just, that's dispatched and self-generated. If you look at November, out of 345 calls, 167 were actually dispatched. That means they were called into dispatch and then dispatched to the deputy. All the self-initiated or generated calls was 178 calls for service in November. In December, we had 202 dispatched calls, and self-generated was 230 for 13.9 calls per day on average. We'll go over the arrests. Felony arrests for October, we had 5. And if you look at the gray, that's the prior year, which is 2023. We had, out of those arrests, I just took down some notes. We had trespass, drunk in public, warrants, 1 for domestic violence, and 1 assault with a deadly weapon, which was also a domestic violence call. Looking in November, we had 4 felony arrests. And in November, those were for, well, we'll go over the misdemeanor and felony. So we had 4 felony and then 3 misdemeanor arrests. So out of those arrests, we had 2 warrants, 2 drunk in public, 2 domestic violence, 1 burglary, and then we had one a drug addict that was in possession of a handgun that was arrested. And then if you look in December, we were down. We only had 3 arrests that whole month, 2 felony and 1 misdemeanor. And those were for trespassing and then 2 for domestic violence. And those calls for service, we'll go over the Part 1 violent crimes. If you look to the left, that's 2023. I'll go over the right, which is 2024. In October, we had 5 aggravated assaults. We had no robberies, no sex crimes, and no homicides. In November, we had 3 aggravated assaults and no robberies, sex crimes, or homicides, which is good. And we only had 1 aggravated assault in December and no other violent crimes. Looked those calls up, and pretty much every one of those were domestic violence related. Now look at Part 1 property crimes. In October, we had 1 burglary, we had 6 larcenies, which are thefts, and then 2 vehicle thefts. In November, we had 1 burglary, 2 larcenies, and no vehicle thefts. And in December, we had no burglaries, 5 thefts, and no vehicle thefts. So our largest crime right now that we're dealing with is theft within the city of Canyon Lake. Look at our average response times. These priority calls are from the time that somebody calls into 911 to the time that the dispatcher dispatches a call to the deputy and the deputy arrives on scene. This is not the deputy's actual response. So priority 1s, which is the one we're most concerned with, in October was 8.9 minutes. November was 7.1. December was 9.7. Priority 2s were 15.93, 16.41, and 15.37. So staying right around 15 minutes for the priority 2s. Priority 3s, 36 minutes, 45 minutes, and 44 minutes. And then priority 4s, 49 minutes, 35 minutes, and 25. We actually have priority 5s, but those are calls where there's no reason to get there in a hurry. So those are usually right around the same time as those. Okay, we'll look at our traffic-related stats. In October, we were up quite a few collisions. We had 15 collisions in October. No fatalities, 3 citations, and 1 DUI arrest. In November, we had 7 collisions, 0 fatalities, 5 citations, and 2 DUIs arrests. And then in December, we had 9 total collisions, no fatalities, 4 citations issued, and 2 DUI arrests. So when I give my arrest stats, these are far and above the additional arrests.
These are in addition to?
In addition to the arrests that I gave.
Got it.
For the actual crimes.
Do you recall most of the collisions being inside the gates?
A lot of hit and runs inside the gates this past 3 months. That seems to be something that's happening more often. People are hitting parked cars and taking off. So we're having to do full investigations on those. We had a few outside the gate, but no.
Any other questions for Captain Rails?
Thank you for breaking it apart.
Yes.
The calls for service, I appreciate that.
Yep, I was going to say the same thing.
It wasn't as time consuming as I thought, as long as I remembered and did it every few days or within the week. So I'll see if we can start doing that on every quarter.
Be careful. Every city's
Yeah,
asked for it.
I'm not making a promise, but
Councilman Welty?
Yeah, I have a question. How's the program where the citizens allow access to their video cameras? Is that working out? I mean, are you getting video and know who to contact?
we've had a few investigations where we have used the video, yes. I don't know how often we're using it, but I know I do recall at least 2 or 3 investigations where they've been used. So everybody's been real cooperative. It's been helpful.
Okay. Would that be available to the commercial center here too, if someone wanted to sign up for that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We'll let people know.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Captain.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on non-agenda items?
There are not. However, I believe the fire chief might have a presentation.
Oh,
Unless you'd like to skip it.
I apologize, Chief. Chief Latendrous.
I'm sure the captain was much more exciting than I'll be.
No, that's not true.
Start out with a quick update regarding the fires that have already been mentioned a couple times this evening. We were requested by our dispatch center, Paris Command Center, if we could provide an apparatus and respond. We were able to fill that need. Our firefighters are currently on the Hearst fire, just outside of Sylmar in the Los Angeles City area. We have no idea when they'll be back, but obviously, as all of us have been seeing from the news, it's a very tragic, difficult situation out there, and we send our firefighters the best, not just our firefighters, but we have firefighters from throughout the United States on this firefight. And we also want to keep in mind those that have lost property, those that have lost loved ones, and those that have lost pets and livestock in this fire. So it will be some time before we know the final damage, and our personnel will be out there for a period of time as well, assisting in whatever recovery efforts that they can go through now. And before that, even trying to get these terrible fires under control. So just wanted to provide that update first. So tonight I'll be presenting the fire department statistics for the month of December. Next month I will come back and I will provide our annual report information with the detail of how we did in 2024, and we'll have information comparing it to our 3 years of service here in Canyon Lake. So in the month of December, we ran 87 emergency responses. Of those emergency responses, 5 were fires, 58 were medical aids, 6 were service calls, 13 were good intent, and 5 were false alarms. The 5 fires we had on December 9th, we had a cooking fire in the 31,000 block of Emperor Drive. It turned out just to be an oven fire. On December 10th, we had an outside fire in the area of Big T and Railroad Canyon Road. Actually had some mulch burning in the center divider. On December 11th, another outside fire in the 22,000 block of Whirlaway Court, and that was a tree fire. On December 26th, most people might have seen or heard about this one. We had a vehicle fire in the 23,200 block of Canyon Lake Drive South. It was a trash truck that caught on fire there. And so kind of interesting about this one, in a previous time, we would have the trash truck driver dump the load, spread it all out, and extinguish the fire. CR&R has updated their trash trucks with what we call a fire department connection. So we connect a fire hose to an outlet on the side of the trash truck, we fill it up, we extinguish most of the fire. In this case, the trash truck was able to drive back to their yard in Paris, dump the load there. They could deal with the mess. They had the cleanup operations all there. So it's a much more efficient way of dealing with these types of fires when they do occur. And then finally, again, on the same day, December 26th, we had an outside fire in the 30,000 block of Windward Drive. That was a debris fire, construction debris that was on a vacant lot, and it was suspicious in nature. Our reporting person thought they saw some teenagers in the area. It was during the winter break. Time of day where our emergencies occur. Again, this remains pretty stable. We did have a little peak around 11 o'clock noontime where we ran 9 calls during the month of December. But again, we use this data so that we try to plan activities that could delay our response and do our training in those periods of time where we're least impacted. We had 2 months straight of not having an emergency response at the fire station, so we are grateful for that. Thank you. Again, we want you to come visit the fire station. We'd love to see you there. But if you do have an emergency, we can't guarantee that we are there, so we just want you to call 911. This is where our calls for the month of December occurred, so it was pretty sporadic throughout the entire community. This was one of our better months for our average response time. Our turnout time from the time that the call is received in our dispatch center in Paris until we are dispatched and we get en route was 45 seconds. That was actually our fastest time this year. Our travel time from the time that we leave the station till we arrive on scene was 5 minutes 16 seconds for a total response time of 6 minutes and 6 seconds. Again, what we like to do, not just 50% of the time, but 90% of the time, how we're performing. 90% of the time, we're getting out of the station within 1 minute 12 seconds. Our travel time is 7 minutes and 34 seconds for a total response time of 8 minutes and 23 seconds. During the month of December, Canyon Lake Fire responded 10 times to incident outside the gates or outside the city. 8 of those were in the zip code area for Lake Elsinore. 2 were in Menifee, and we didn't go into Good Hope at all during December. So far this year, we have responded 144 times outside the city to other responses. 114 times into Lake Elsinore, 20 times into Menifee, 9 into Good Hope, and then 1 last month when we went to the mountain fire in Ventura County. And this is just a detailed map, and when you look at the detailed map, you get a little better picture of where the incidents actually are. So they're not all in Lake Elsinore, they're just in their zip code area. So true in the city limits, there were 4 in Lake Elsinore, there were 4 in Meadowbrook, and then 2 in Menifee. And then this is just a look of where all the responses so far this year have been. And you can see we go all the way into Paris, all the way down almost into Wildomar on the other side of the 15 freeway. So it's pretty sporadic on where we go when they call us and when we need to assist our neighbors. So far in the month of December, CAL FIRE responded 6 times into the city of Canyon Lake. One of those, the large commercial fire, the trash truck fire, was a 2-engine response. And when the trash truck drove to Paris to dump its load, the fire engine from Menifee, engine 5, actually followed them all the way there in case there were any issues on scene and remained on scene when they dumped their load. So the 2 agencies really worked together during that incident. So overall, in 2024, there were 87 incidents where CAL FIRE came in to our city. So some will say, well, is that reciprocal? Is that fair? Is that equitable? In my opinion, it is. Again, these are incident responses and not unit responses. When we have a structure fire in our community, we could get 3 or 4 units from CAL FIRE that assist us on one incident. So we are very pleased with the way it's working right now, and we hope it continues the way it does. Our training hours for the month of December, we had 314 hours. So for the entire year, we trained over 3,186 hours. Our focus this month, we hired a new firefighter, so we put him through an orientation academy, which included hose evolutions, ladders, self-contained breathing apparatus, all the equipment we carry on the engines, and then all of our policies and onboarding through human resources. We did our annual hose and ladder testing. We did MCI training at March Reserve Base. And just kind of a segue into why we do that, our firefighters are part of the first responders that are on site during the air show at March, which will occur in April. So this was a preparatory training that we have to go through before that event takes place in April. We also did hose evolution simulations on commercial fires, some engineer training with our new engineer, and then we are getting a new staffing program, and so we were working on that training for the staffing program. Also during the month of December, it's one of our busiest months for community outreach. We were at the POA tree lighting ceremony. We were at the city's Winter Wonderland and Holiday Market. A great success was our Spark of Love toy drive. Again, thank you to the communities for their generous donations to those that here in the region need assistance during the holidays. The POA Holiday Golf Cart Parade, the fire department and the city Christmas parties. We were there for the ski club with Santa pictures at the dock. And then finally, we had a very successful Donuts with Santa at the fire station. and grateful to all those that showed up, and to Home Depot for building their little Santa's workshop. Would like to announce and send a shout out that during the month of February, we will be starting CERT training. CERT is Community Emergency Response Team. The city has taken an active role and taken over the old disaster preparedness program, and we're kicking it off with CERT training that will take place on February 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. You go to the city's website on the fire department's page and the disaster preparedness. If you want to sign up, we have spots open, and so we encourage you to attend. And that concludes my presentation for the month of December, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Any questions? Great job, Chief.
Thank
I
you.
apologize. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on non-agenda items?
Mayor, we have no comments.
Are there any public comments on consent calendar
Mayor, we have
items?
none.
Excellent. I then would ask the council members, then we'll go to council members to provide reports and comments. Would anyone like to start? Councilman Welty?
Working out the microphone here. Yeah, it was the holidays. Most of my committees did not meet, so there's not much to report on the committees. We'll say that the holidays were great for at least my family. The one loss was that our son has moved to New York, so my wife was kind of tore up actually having the holidays without the grandkids and the son, so that was a little brutal. We did have a little respiratory flu, so that kind of took the wind out. But other than that, great holidays. We did have local family, so that was great. Just a comment. I'm sitting here in this new space here that we're having for the council center, and I'm loving the TVs. And I will tell you, our access and our ability to see what's being presented, the speakers, has just increased to tenfold. I just want to congratulate. And while I was here, I snuck onto the website and I went to the YouTube station. And I will tell you, in the old days, I used to watch the snowstorm kind of go on. And I tell you, on the YouTube, I felt like I could reach out and literally touch the people talking. So I just want to say the at-home people's experience has got to be 10 times what it was. So good job to the staff and for putting this all together. So it's going to be a big difference. So thank you. That's it.
Councilmember Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's see. All right, community updates. It was a busy month for us all. It was good seeing each and every one of you at all the events that we attended, whether it was the tree lighting ceremony or donuts with Santa, which was so cool. My kids got to partake in Home Depot being there and put on the apron and build stuff, and it was a lot of fun. So once again, it's a great day to be in Canyon Lake. As far as regional boards, we were dark in some cases, but we also had elections of officers in all of our regional boards. I got to finish out my last meeting as chair of RTA, and to my colleagues, if any of you get the opportunity to serve on a regional board and be chair, it is quite the honor. So, I thank my colleagues here for allowing me to do that, but also those that voted for me to serve as chair for the last year, and it was an incredible experience. Got to learn a lot about a multi-million-dollar agency, and I'm very proud of the experience and what RTA is doing day in and day out. With that was elections. For RTA, we elected a new second vice chair, and that is our good friend Cindy Warren in the city of Marietta. She was unanimously elected as second vice chair. And as far as RCTC, once again, I'm looking forward to the opportunity. I was elected as second vice chair of RCTC to serve on that board. So pretty much it on the regional stuff. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Mayor Pro Tem?
Hello.
Hello.
Not too much to report. We did have our first finance committee meeting today, which is always a great time, seeing how much money we spend. But we are doing good, and I'm looking forward to this year. Councilmember Stieber and I met the other day to discuss potential events. We're excited and energized and looking forward to a great 2025.
Councilmember Stieber?
There we go. Same as me. I don't have too much to report on. Being sworn in on the 11th in December, that was kind of my big hurrah besides the holidays. But got to spend holidays quietly with both of my sons and just appreciated that. As Mayor Pro Tem Castillo stated, we did get to meet earlier in the week and already start brainstorming 2025 events. So looking forward to some of the existing ones and seeing how we might be able to join some other events to get some more city recognition in this year as well.
I think you'll do
thank
great.
you.
I forgot, we kind of got mixed up in our comments last month. And I failed to recognize Shannon Kelly of 3J's Candle Company. She and I believe her daughter showed up with 10 turkeys, and it was pretty unexpected. I also would like to recognize Mindy Latendress, who showed up in a truck, 26 turkeys. And it just was an incredible gesture, and I apologize for forgetting to bring her up last month. Today, had the opportunity to go to the Lake Elsinore Chamber of Commerce meeting. Got an opportunity to speak with the Lake Elsinore Mayor, Brian Tisdale, and it's always good to sit down with the Chamber of Commerce President, Kim Cousins. I think he does a great job. And a bonus, I got to have breakfast with my very good friend, Director Burke, and that was a very good way to start the morning. We did not have a WRCOG meeting on Monday. Rather, on Friday, we will be holding our annual strategic planning meeting, and I look forward to reporting back to you on that at our next meeting. Very excited about this next item. Councilmember Welty, Chief Latendress, Mike Borja, along with our city manager, Aaron Brown, we attended the Canyon Lake Merchant Association meeting, and which they stated was the largest attended meeting in the history of the association. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that people are very interested in what's going on. And I do, I think it's a great group. For those who don't know, the Merchant Association is made up of approximately 28 owners. These would be the people who own the actual buildings, not necessarily the ones who are operating a business. In the town center, absolutely. And I thought it was a very positive meeting. I think the city did a terrific job at, providing ways that we are willing to help the town center and the owners in the town center. And like I said, very positive meeting. And he can add this to his resume. Aaron, our city manager, Aaron Brown, was voted onto the board. And I make a little bit of light of that, but that's very, very important, and something that I know Councilmember Welty and I have been trying to pursue for the better part of 2 years. I do commend Councilman Welty for keeping the Irish out of me and insisting that we do need to attend this meeting, and did a great job at reviewing all the bylaws and reporting back to us. And you deserve a great deal of credit for that entire meeting, and I think our city manager would probably even agree. Last but not least, Coffee at the Country Club is back. And on January 16th, you might have coffee if you like drinking coffee at 6 p.m. because that's when we're going to have it. We are going to have Senator Kelly Cierto. He is going to be our first guest. And Darcy Burke, who has been holding this event, for lack of a better phrase, back all the way back when you were mayor, correct? Casey?
2020.
Well, typically, as they say, and Greg, you've been to them, you would get to meet either a council member or the mayor. And Darcy and I got talking in the off season, and we really want to introduce our residents to the leadership throughout Riverside County. And I appreciate Darcy for setting this up. I encourage you, we're going to try to put some publicity out on it, but I encourage our residents to meet these leaders. Riverside County is outstanding. And Senator Cierto has quite a difficult job, and Director Burke and I have spoken on this as well, but he does a really, really good job in Sacramento being a minority. And, can reach across the aisle, can make things happen. I think he is a fantastic senator, and I can't wait until you meet him, and that's all I have.
Mayor, can I add one thing to that?
Yes, you may.
I'd also like to congratulate, I got to join you back actually a few days after my installation on December 19th, our local Chamber of Commerce installation. So that was great to be a part of it with you, and want to thank the new board coming on. So I apologize I left them out.
No worries. You did a great job that night. Thank you. Okay, council members, would you like to pull anything on the consent calendar?
No.
Okay. Then I would ask for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Madam Clerk, would you like to conduct a roll call?
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Stieber.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Terry.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, on to business items. Business item number 6, adopt a resolution approving fiscal year 2025-2026 Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, projects and allocation of public service agencies. And Madam Clerk, do we have a staff report?
I believe Administrative Services Director Borja has a report for us.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. Can you guys hear me pretty clear? Tonight, staff is seeking adoption of resolution number 2025-03, approving fiscal year 25-26 Community Development Block Grant, also known as CDBG, projects and allocation towards public service agencies with an estimated allocation of $21,826. As a lot of you already know, we cities actually receive opportunities every year through the county on community development block grants. In the past, and it's been a while since I believe it's 2020, we had received future allocation, which is why over the past 3 years we haven't seen any allocation come towards us, because everything was funded for for an ADA project that we had before. For 25-26, we are now eligible to receive funding. So the same kind of rules do apply, where 15% of the total allocation can be approved for public service agencies, and 85% of the remaining amount can be used towards ADA projects, which is what we used to do before. Unfortunately, we missed the December 2nd deadline to basically get council's approval on this. However, the county was good enough to extend it for us at tonight's council meeting. So if council does approve to move forward with these projects and allocations, they'll accept today as approval for the funding for us. I do have a couple of corrections. Within the staff report, I state that the deadlines for the submittal of CDBG applications from public service agencies is as Friday, January 24th. It's actually supposed to be 30 days from today, or actually when we put this on in the public notice on which is tomorrow, so it'll put it to February 10th. So just know that the extension of the deadline is actually not January 24th; it's February 10th. Because of that, it will push out the public hearing where we come back, bring forward the applications that were submitted to us that qualify for CDBG funding for low-income programs at the March 12th meeting. So that February 12th date is incorrect too as well. So I just wanted to correct that so that we're clear. So, so moving forward, for, again, as I mentioned before, the total allocation is estimated at $21,826, of which $3,274 can be utilized towards public service agencies, and then the remaining amount towards any projects that the city is looking to do, which typically are ADA accessibility projects. That concludes my report. If you have any questions.
Question, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Mike, you knew I was going to talk to you about CDBG. It's our favorite.
Yep.
Are these funds down a little bit from previous years? I mean, we usually receive between 32, 36,000. Now we're at, is that accurate or?
I believe, no, it's been typically in the 20s.
Okay, it's still been in the 20s?
Might have been around $28,000, somewhere around that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very rare that it's been over 30. So.
Okay, so it's always that struggle to find how we can spend it. So.
Yes, yeah, which is why we've always done some of the future allocations to get some of our projects kind of completed, because they're pretty low on the amount that we do get. Keep in mind too, Canyon Lake, these funds comes through the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Right.
Canyon Lake does not meet the qualifications of low income. So these funds are actually given through us, through the county, from their allocation that they actually get through HUD. So they're fortunate enough to give us some of that money for us to do some of these projects. But we've had struggles before in the past on qualifying projects for this funding, because it's always low income based. It has to be low income based.
And in years past, we partnered with Good Hope, right?
With Helping Hands and Hope.
Yep.
Yeah. However, Helping Hands, if you remember the last time,
yep,
there was a 50C13 issue that they had status. I'm not sure whether or not they cleared that up. Hopefully they did, and they could qualify for some of this funding too right now if they meet that status.
Thank you, Mike, as always.
Any other questions?
No.
I'll make the motion if there's no questions.
Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there are not.
Then yes, we need a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2025-03, approving the fiscal year 2025-2026 CDBG projects.
You have the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Business item number 7.
Whoa.
Roll call vote.
And just to confirm, was that a second by Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Got it. Roll call vote, please. Mayor Pro Tem Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Stieber?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Terry?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Business item number 7, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute amendments to existing community benefit agreements to set the community benefit rate attributable to gross revenue of commercial cannabis business at 6% of gross revenues. Madam Clerk, do we have a?
Yes, we do. City Manager Brown.
As I turn it off, absolutely. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. I will be your beauty in this presentation and utilize the brains of our city attorney. This is obviously a very complex process. Very fortunate to have a partner in our city attorney that also has experience in this area. So we'll kind of navigate and provide a history of what has happened, because in my assessment in the 9 months that I've been here, there's been a lot of confusion from the public side, just how all this how we got here, what's been going on. So calling it my cannabis review. So just some quick housekeeping items. We've got numerous resolutions since April 10th of 2024, or sorry, October 6th of 2021. Resolution number 2021-57 established one cannabis retail permit on October 6th. Also on October 6th, it established an application and fees for cannabis retail permit with 2021-58. Resolution number 2021-59 established review criteria for cannabis retail. And resolution number 2024-13 modifies the cannabis retail permit from 1 to 2. What we have here are the applicants from the offering. The Culture Cannabis Club ranked number 1, offering the most benefit to the city community. Then we have next was the Syndicate. Third was IE Gardens. Fourth, Element 7. And last in the group was Sip Koi. With that, Culture Cannabis Club was awarded. They were the selected applicant. Best offer of the 5, as we discussed. Culture Cannabis Club criteria presented to the city. They projected 15% of gross revenues would be, and their revenues would be $15,290,084. So I want to say it again. Their projected revenue for the first year, $15,290,000. Second year, $17,212,000. Third year, $19,794,000. I'll skip ahead to the end. The actual gross revenue they saw in their time was just under $3 million. So the projected annual city benefit was $1.22 million. What they told the city was, we will give you the highest of the 2 options. Either we will give you the 15%, or we will give you $1.2 million in the year, whichever is higher. When we look at them opening the doors September 28th of 2023, we have listed the quarterly payments that were received. May 31st was $205,000, November 13th, $205,000, and then the start items on June 27th and July 22nd were negotiated back payments that they were making to make up for the fact that they had not made the quarterly payments. So those are not quarterly payments, they are a partial payment on the quarterly payments that were owed. They closed their doors on August 6th of 2024, again in operation less than 11 months. As I informed the council, we did not find out from Culture Cannabis when they closed their doors. We found out from the public and later verified with Culture Cannabis. The current status of the Culture Cannabis Club is Culture's permit was administratively suspended by the city manager as they were no longer providing service in the city. This was originally suspended until 12/31/24, but was extended until 1/31/25 while continued discussions take place between Culture and the city manager and city attorney. I'll get into those discussions as we go into the later slides. So what staff is asking for with this change to 6% kind of breaks down to what this means for the 2 current permit holders. Culture Cannabis Club, if the staff recommendation is adopted, Culture will be offered an ability to pay the city all owed monies and resume their business at the town center with a community benefit contribution rate of 6% instead of 15% or the $1.2 million annually, whichever is greater. And I'll repeat this on both. That does not change the permit holder's obligations for annual civic and nonprofit contributions. What it means for the syndicate, if the staff recommendation is adopted, the syndicate would be able to start their business with a community benefit contribution rate of 6% instead of their proposed 13.5%. Then I kind of went into just some tax facts for cannabis businesses. Cannabis businesses are taxed very different than really any other business until you get to the end, and that's when the sales tax is added, the California sales tax. So if you just look at the example we have here, if you're selling a cannabis product at $35, just assume, because it's easier math, local cannabis business tax 10%, $3.50. And then maybe there's a delivery fee of $5 or a service fee of $3. That gets you to a gross receipt of $46.50. That includes what that cannabis tax was. Now you go to the state mandated cannabis excise tax. which is 15%. That 15% is on everything up to this point, including the local cannabis business tax. And once that is figured, the gross receipt are subject to sales tax. Our sales tax rate is 7.75. So the tax rate that you are paying on cannabis is your 7.75, your 15% California excise sales tax, and whatever that local location has. Some quick facts for people just kind of wondering how this all works. Sales made at the business location versus sales delivered to the customer. If the business is in an area where district taxes are imposed or community benefit agreement, the applicable district tax rate is the rate in effect at your business location. When items are delivered to customers, the business is required to collect, report, and pay the district tax rate in effect at the location where the items are delivered. And I think that's an important thing to know. We have no way of monitoring if Cannabis Company A is delivering to any residents in our city. We do not have a methodology at which we go, oh, we know this was delivered, there are payments due. As a reminder, locally imposed cannabis business taxes that are passed on to customers are also subject to sales or use tax, and delivery charges are generally taxable. Here's an example that the California Department of Tax and Fees, CDTFA, thank you. Sales made at business location in the city of Sacramento. So what you see here is a sale price of $35 on a cannabis product. The business tax is 4%, so $35 of the 4%, and then $36.40 cannabis excise tax rate. We have that 15%, and now we go down to the sales tax. The next example is actually Woodland, and again, this is on the CDTFA website as their example, but I think it's important to note when I looked at their current rate on May 2nd, 2023, the City of Woodland approved Resolution 8063 approving cannabis business tax rates for distribution 4% of gross receipts. So while it gives you 10% as an example here, it is 4% now. And I can tell you with the way the cannabis market is, the reason staff is recommending this 6% number is it's really where this business is sustainable. And I think it's very important to understand also that in the state of California, it is legal to receive a delivery in every city. So you can receive a delivery, and again, like I said, we have no way of knowing who's receiving a delivery, what's going on. We're really at the we're trusting those companies that they are doing it right and sending us checks when they deliver to someone in our city. If you have an individual, and you may be very pro-cannabis, you may be against cannabis, but understand that the history shows the individuals that are going to partake in cannabis are going to do so whether there is a cannabis store in your city or not. The advantage of doing something like this, and I'll use the one we have currently as Culture, is that they are audited by a third party that we bring in that looks at what the sales were, and so we know what money is owed and how that process works. It's an important part of that process. So if we do not have a cannabis business in this city, the likelihood of that in any way affecting the consumption is very low. However, when you have a cannabis business in the city and the individuals that are going to partake in that do so, at least they're paying a rate that goes to the city and it benefits the city to which they reside in. That is an important part of this. 6% is right at that number where this is a sustainable business. I don't think I'm shocking anyone when I say when you look at $1.2 million of what was proposed by Culture, that is not sustainable in any way. As you saw, they ended up with about $3 million in sales, and they were expecting $15 million. And what their analysts are going to say when they look at something like that is they know Menifee does not allow any dispensaries, so you're probably going to pull from Menifee. Maybe you're going to pull some of the Lake Elsinore, some of the other areas around, and that doesn't seem to be what happened. So staff's recommendation is to modify this to 6% to make it sustainable. It is important that we do it, in my recommendation, that we do it first and then go back to Culture Cannabis Club and say, look, this is where we're at now. They still owe the city. They made an obligation to the city. They said they would pay that money. So it is important to go back to them and say, moving forward, if council decides to do this, this is where you'll be. However, we need a quick discussion on how you're making that payment in the past. In terms of the syndicate, as they're kind of launching, they would not launch with anything due as they're just starting their business. They would start at the 6%. And with that, unless the city attorney has anything to add to it, I would love to take your questions.
Would Culture owe the past due at the old rate, or would that convert to the 6%?
They would owe at the old rate.
So if they want to reopen, they need to pay what they were contractually obligated to pay, and then moving forward after they do that, the 6%.
That is correct.
What's the likelihood of that in real life?
Somewhere around zero. What I would tell you, looking into my crystal ball, is what's going to happen is they're going to say, great, we want to move forward. We'd like to issue your council an offer in compromise. We owe whatever the amount is, and we've not calculated that yet, but let's just use $500,000 as a round number. And then they're probably going to say, to get back in business, get everything moving, we'd like to offer the council $250,000. And then the city attorney and I are obligated to bring that to you, and it would be entirely up to the council whether you accepted an offer like that or you said the number is the number. And so that is fully how I think both of us expect this to go.
I have another question. So while they're deciding what they're going to do, does Syndicate then have the ability to open up while we're like, is there a permit and then a secondary permit, or can Syndicate basically take over Culture's business if they don't get it together?
Syndicate and Culture are separate entities.
Right.
They have separate permits, and they have separate community benefit agreements.
So Syndicate could open and then take all of Culture's business while they mess around.
They could.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's kind of a business, operational thing for them. There's nothing stopping Syndicate from moving forward with opening their business while Culture attempts to negotiate a reduction in the amount owing. Those are two completely separate issues.
And I think it's important that I let council know that I did reach out to both of the principals of Culture and of the Syndicate partnership to let them know that I would be bringing this item to council, and it is my recommendation, and just kind of getting a feel. And both were very interested. I will say, even with the Syndicate, I do not see them moving forward at the 13.5% that they were proposing in the beginning. They now know that this city is not the market that they all proposed it to be in the beginning. So to me, this 6% is the difference between this being a sustainable business and not. And it doesn't mean that we wouldn't have other individuals that want to get into this market that come in and like, I think I can do it. And then we could have that revolving door. So I think it's very important that we look at something that makes it sustainable, and then we can build consistent partnerships with these individuals.
And then, if you don't mind, Councilmember, I did want to put in the record that I have spoken with Councilmember Stieber. He does not have a business interest in a cannabis business any longer. We have to make sure we have those things in the record in case the FPPC has any interest. Councilmember Stieber was an applicant at one time for one of the applicants that ultimately did not open. But Councilmember, you may want to affirm that into the record here for the city clerk so that we can ensure that you can continue to participate in the discussion.
Gotta get the mic going. Yes, I affirm that. Thank you.
Okay.
So we don't even know if Syndicate has a spot because we have rules about schools and churches and stuff like that, and our spots are limited.
Correct. And I believe they had up to 1 year to perform. Is that right?
That's correct.
So they've started the process. They've got to find exactly that. They've got to find a spot that meets all of the legal obligations that they would have to adhere to, and we do not have any input on whether or not they've done that yet.
Canyon Cowboy.
I'm selfishly waiting for a great restaurant.
Yeah.
One of them I clearly partake in often, and the other I don't. So.
Got it.
There is no timeline on that payment set at this point. Is that correct?
The timeline on the owed money?
Yeah.
So the permit right now was extended to the end of January. Really, that's where it comes down to where, and I don't know what our process is. I'd have to look at that, but at that point, I think we'd look to revoke. You might want to jump in here. City
Yeah.
Attorney.
So at this point, they are not in compliance with the conditions
Of
their cannabis permit. Generally speaking, absent a significant health safety issue with a permit condition, usually aren't going to revoke someone's business permit over noncompliance. You are going to put them on notice. You're going to give them an opportunity to cure. That's what we've done. In terms of, to the extent there's any concern about the waiting game, we're also calculating interest and penalties through this period. So the longer they wait, the bigger the number gets to get even clear with the city.
They haven't already been put on notice, right?
Oh, they have.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Their license is suspended. Even if they wanted to operate, they'd be not permitted to operate.
The license was suspended until December 31st. I extended it until the end because as we kind of walked through this whole process, it became apparent that the only way to have a sustainable possibility of a cannabis business was to look at that 6%. We've got other places as low as 4%, as I gave the examples, but that really seems to be that right around 6%. Seems some have gone to 10 and are looking to go lower. So I think we're in a good spot with 6%. But they are very aware, and they being culture are very aware. I spoke with the CEO, and again, I also spoke with the syndicate to let them know.
City Manager, first, appreciate the presentation. Thank you. Second, being that competitive rate, do we know what our neighboring agencies like Lake Elsinore, Wildemar, Paris, where their rates are compared to what we're proposing?
I can get those for you, but some of them do not do a blanket rate. They actually do, each individual business has its own community benefit agreement, which that's crazy to me because now you're trying to monitor each one differently, and that just to me reeks of favoritism when you start negotiating those deals. So what I'm asking is that we have a static rate all the way across the board.
Okay, thank you.
And you're right, City Manager, the standard rate right now is between 6 and 8%. We just saw the city of San Jacinto take this up next to Hemet. They were at between 11 and 12, and they argued the 10%, and it's going to be seen that they're possibly going to be taking it up again and looking at 6 to 8 too. So, yeah, I'm good with the 6%. It makes sense. I knew this was coming. I'm just happy that it's coming now, and we're dealing with some of the baggage that we've dealt with. So I appreciate the report. I think it's insightful, and it's good to know where we came from and where we're at. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
My opinion is they need to pay the amount they're supposed to pay.
Something about a 0% chance?
So what I would say to that is, as of now, city staff, the city manager and I, we do not have any authority to accept anything less than the total amount that is owed. any person who owes money to the city is always free to make an offer and compromise. If we get that, we have an obligation to bring it to the city council. Culture has obviously not met its contractual obligations to the city. Contractual obligations that it entered into as an inducement to receive the city's first cannabis permit.
Exactly.
And so, we take that very seriously. We reiterate that every time we have the conversation. However, on the flip side, I would point out that Culture has remitted significant payments to the city over the course of its application process, its initial opening, and its initial months of operation. Obviously, they've not met the total obligation that they incurred, and so for that reason, their license was suspended. We don't have a lot of flexibility when the council, sets policy by ordinance or resolution. We're to follow it, but they're of course free to make an offer, and the council's free to consider it.
Any other questions?
I have one more. When the second permit was issued, do we have a timeline on that when they're supposed to be up and operational?
Yes, they have 1 year. They have 12 months.
From, when did we do that?
October or November?
I can tell you.
It's on the presentation. Was it October?
Excuse me.
I just said it and it's already gone. It was April 10th, 2024.
So they have till April.
So that's,
Yeah.
that's like
Yeah.
4 months.
Yeah.
Like tomorrow.
That's like
It is
tomorrow.
basically tomorrow.
Councilwoman Castillo, your point is made though, because this council has been over backwards to work. And, three of us that are up here was part of the process from the very beginning, and it's been difficult, but, for the members of the community that are paying attention to this particular item, this is exactly, the predicament that they put themselves in. They made the decision that they think they could have performed on this, and no one knew, right? So, but I will say that this council continued to do all they could to work with them, and I'm very proud of that because it wasn't as difficult as it could have been. And once again, we're here asking for the same things that we asked for before, with that 0% chance of it happening. But we'll see. It was a good Christmas.
To be fair, I said around 0.
Got it. Okay, we'll butt up.
So he's saying there's a chance.
I'm saying there's a chance.
He's saying there's a chance, Mr. Mayor.
Have we heard, and I mean, I don't want to hold them to this, but since we're having the discussion, have we heard from the syndicate that they're actively coming to Canyon Lake?
So when I spoke to Rich Moline 2 weeks ago, I think it was last week, the week before, all he said was that they're excited at the potential. It makes the business sustainable. There was never we're not moving forward, there's nothing we're doing. And I believe their 1 year is to perform, which means to begin the process. It is not to complete the process.
Right. It's to take all reasonable efforts to obtain a certificate of occupancy
By
and
location.
to make their initial community benefits payment.
Makes sense.
Can I ask one more question? So we just had a tax measure that was a citizen initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for this 6%, right?
It was 6% with the ability for council to raise it to 8%.
Okay. And then it was 6%, and the money went to public safety.
Created a public safety fund, and it had some other items, including user utility tax that was tied in with that.
So the UUT and cannabis money would have been locked,
And sales tax would have been locked into a
sales
public safety fund.
and now it's probably gonna be 6% if we voted in, but there's no direction as to where.
No, this
money goes.
becomes general fund money. That is correct.
Interesting.
Yes, the citizen initiative would have placed a constitutional requirement that money be spent only on law enforcement and fire services, and that could only have been changed by a vote of the people in the future.
So Canyon Lakers did not want to tell us where to put it.
They apparently have significant faith in your ability to decide how to spend the general fund money.
Excellent.
Well said. Any other questions?
Oh, comment time?
Yes, absolutely.
Just a comment. I'm not a cannabis fan. I'm not one that thinks it's such a great thing for human beings, but I'm also not a fan of abusing alcohol. And we tried prohibition, by the way, and what we made was a lot of gangsters, a lot of money. We got a lot of people dying because they got bad alcohol. We hired a lot of policemen to chase around these alcohol gangsters, right? And it turned into a flop. And I believe at this point in time, cannabis is similar. You know, we've spent billions of dollars chasing around the pot smokers in America, and really, it has done very little change. It is just to me been largely a waste of money. But on the other side, the concern is the organized gangs that are making money off the marijuana. That this legalized cannabis is an opportunity to at least defund some of their money for these organized gangs. And I do wish the federal government would lower the taxes. The tax on their side's hidden, but it's still crazy, that we would actually create a legal market for citizens and really put the gangsters out of business. And that would be my perfect dream hope. And when we started this a year ago, I was looking around for information on cannabis. I found what I thought was a pretty neutral source, and that was Nova. If anybody's watched PBS and Nova, they came out with this hour-long clip that was basically called The Cannabis Question. And if anyone wants to take a view, that would be a great place to go. But the things I got from it is, one, cannabis is a drug, clearly, like alcohol is a drug. The other thing I got from it is, like a lot of drugs, it can be used to really benefit the user, and it can become abused by the user. So for everybody that's totally against cannabis in every which way, I would or totally for it in every which way, as if you can do as much cannabis as you want, still be like a normal human being, probably not so much. So I would just encourage you to go to the Nova and look up The Cannabis Question and really kind of see a perspective. That's the end of my comment.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If you have no public comments, I'll make the motion that you're going to seek.
We have no public comments.
Mayor, we have no public comments.
Yes, we would need a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2025-04. Do I have to continue to read the entire, or?
No, you do not, Mayor.
You do not.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
If you yell louder, it'll work.
Second.
There you go.
Business item number.
Roll call vote, please.
Roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Castillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith?
Aye.
Councilmember Stieber?
Aye.
Councilmember Welty?
Aye.
Mayor Terry?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Number 8, designation of voting delegates for the Southern California Association of Governments, otherwise known as SCAG, 2025 Regional Conference and General Assembly. Madam Clerk, do we have a presentation?
Mayor, that would be me. And as you just stated, the item before you tonight is a designation of voting delegates for SCAG's 2025 Regional Conference, which is being held in May in Palm Desert. The city's delegate will have the opportunity to vote on SCAG items such as resolutions and bylaw revisions. As a reminder, the city's representative to SCAG is Councilmember Smith. Do I see gummy bears?
You do see gummy bears being passed, Madam Clerk. One's coming your way.
Someone go to the market.
And our alternate
brought it
is
to
Mayor
us.
Terry. So at this time, we'd ask you to,
Can you repeat that, please?
I can't hear over the crunching
thought
of the
so.
bags.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, Madam Clerk. You were saying?
Would you like the entire report
No.
again?
Right now,
Can we choose a delegate and an alternate for the SCAG conference?
Mr. Mayor, would you like to be?
I was
the
hoping to
chosen one?
nominate you, Mr.
No,
Smith.
you were not. I was hoping to pivot to my good friend Dale, like I do every year.
I've done it in the past. It's a ceremonial thing, but it's important that we do take part in the voting and where we represented it. So it takes a little bit of time. I'm happy to do it if you want me to. If not, I'm happy to pass it off.
I would love for you to do it, Dale. I'll back you up though. You have a suggestion. I would nominate our council member, Dale Welty.
So you're making a motion?
Yep, making a motion.
Second. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call vote?
We can, and just to be clear, we don't have a delegate, I'm sorry, an alternate, just the delegate.
Perfect. Even
Councilmember
better.
Welty. Got it.
The weight of the burden is just doubled.
Done.
Let's just take a roll call vote on that. Mayor Pro Tem Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Stieber.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Terry.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Item number 9, introduction of the first reading of ordinance number 251, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon Lake, California, to repeal Chapter 2.28, Disaster Operation and Relief of the Canyon Lake Municipal Code, and replace with new Chapter 2.28, Emergency Organization and Functions. Madam Clerk, do we have a presentation?
We do. I believe City Attorney Graham is going to handle this presentation for us.
Thank you. Following a recent slate of public emergencies, including the first couple months of COVID, Tropical Storm Hillary, wind events like this one, our firm had gone through each of our clients' emergency operations ordinances and looked to streamline and modernize those. Many of them had not been revisited in quite a long time. They included advisory bodies that were no longer used or frankly involved with the emergency planning at the municipal level. So you will see essentially the same process that we had before. Your city manager is the director of emergency services. You see the ability of the Director of Emergency Services to delegate an Assistant Director of Emergency Services during a initial proclaimed emergency, and if one is extended by the City Council, the Director of Emergency Services has additional contracting authority, so his purchasing authority goes up during that period. He also has the ability to enact emergency regulations, which have the force of law, but which do have to come to the City Council for ratification and approval. And so it's essentially streamlining that, going through the process that we went through in this city and other jurisdictions, the issues that we had, and making sure that the language was basically up to best practices in the modern era. Happy to answer any questions you have about specific changes.
Any questions for staff?
I'm just happy this is being done. I read on the report what this hasn't been done since 1992. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'm glad this item is being forwarded. Thank you. And we did receive a couple text messages from the members in the public that they can't hear over us due to the gummy bear bags. Just want to let that out there. Make sure you turn your mic off. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I have a kind of a comment, a question / comment. Just remember, we do have emergency preparedness did put together some storage locations in the city. I just want to make sure they continue to be maintained under this program. Yeah, I guess maybe Chief could help me with that one.
Yes, sir. The committee I talked about earlier that used to be the Canyon Lake Emergency Preparedness Committee is in the process of a metamorphosis into a CERT program, and we're kicking off that change with the CERT training in February. A component of that is the inventory and assessing of the different storage container. We have one at the fire station. We have one at Eastport. There's one at Bluebird. There's one at Happy Camp. And so the current members of the new CERT still have access to that, and the city has access to that equipment and will be utilized in any disaster.
And it'd be important to note, Mr. Mayor, that, if I may, there wasn't anything in the ordinance that created that storage or really made that possible. It was just that the POA had kind of given an area for emergency preparedness, and as the chief said, we verified that will continue on. But there was nothing in the old ordinance or the new that continues that or makes it possible. It is made possible by the POA allowing it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
Mayor, there are not.
We need a motion and second to...
So moved. Sorry. I'll make the motion.
Second.
City Clerk, roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Castillo. Aye. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Stieber.
Aye.
Councilmember Welty.
Aye.
Mayor Terry.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone's patience with me. I would like to announce that our next regular city council meeting will be held on February 12th, 2025, and this meeting is adjourned.
I have no comments at this time. Thank you.
City manager, do you have any comments?
We're adjourned, sir. No comments from me.
Adjourned.
We're golden.
Unadjourned.
The only comment I have is these gummy bears are delicious. And feel free to remember on my review that I conned the city attorney into making them appear